Over the past 2 years, I've got a couple of blogs that I've been updating, coming from a place of no idea about blogging at all. So the tech around it can sometimes be nebulous, if that makes any sense. And recently I changed host on one of those sites. And when I did that, I discovered that my posts were no longer getting published. So I would write my post in the morning, copy that link into my content inventory spreadsheet. I'd go to work, think of something else that I should add to that post, and the post is gone. So I reach out to my host since I had just made a change that made sense to reach out to them, and they're telling me to clear my cache. Well then, what the heck is cache? And then there's cache all over the place.
Cache? What cache?
So anyway, let's walk through the problems. I can kind of give you some basic stuff to look at if you're coming from a non-tech blog person. All right, first off, what is cache? The cache, spelled C-A-C-H-E, is actually just a technical term for storing something in a temporary location. For blogging, that just means storing it in a way so that it's really fast to come up for the next person that's on your blog looking at that page. And it turns out cache is in quite a few locations. I was able to clear my cache with my host, and that kind of varies a little bit for each host. I was able to clear my cache with my ad provider, which is Ezoic. And then there's the option of possible plugins that you might need to clear your cache with. And then there's your browser cache. So if you're having this problem where it seems like things aren't updating, let me walk you through a few steps that you can do to kind of diagnose where your problem might be to help you kind of Google foo your way through what needs to happen.
Google it, please.
So first off, if it's not updating and you're on Chrome, try Edge. If you're on Edge, try Chrome, try Firefox, try whatever floats your boat, but try something different. If it's fine on one browser and not the other, that's going to tell you that you need to clear your cache at your browser, and that's pretty easy to do. Control-Shift-Delete will get you there, and then that's going to bring up your settings, and this even works in Edge, but essentially it gives you the opportunity to clear your browsing data. You're definitely going to want to do your cached image and files, and you can always just start there and then try the site again and see if what you're expecting shows up or not. And if it doesn't, then you can always come back and do all the things, which I really try to avoid because I like some of my stuff saved. But definitely start with the cached image and files. Now let's say that you've tried Chrome and Firefox, whatever, just two of something, and you're still seeing the same problem where maybe that post isn't updated or doesn't exist. Try it on a different device. So if you have access to another computer or your phone or your friends, whatever, just give it a try on a different device. So if on the second device it looks the same where it's not updated or doesn't exist, then that tells you that your computer is not the problem. It's definitely something, a bigger problem altogether. And so then you can start looking into your other options. So the next step would be to look at your plugin. So if you have a cache plugin like WP Rocket, go to that plugin, to the settings, and clear your cache. I don't have a cache plugin on the site that was giving me problems because I have Ezoic as my ad partner and they have caching through their setup. So I went to Ezoic and cleared my cache that way. And then check it again. If the problem persists, you haven't quite found it, it's not at the plugin. And so my next step was clear the cache with the host. And that looks a little bit different for each of them, but essentially it's the same thing. Just search for cache and then you should be able to find it, or at least something else, instructions and where to go on inside of their panels. But I went through all this and my posts were still not showing. And at this point, I didn't even realize it was happening until it was kind of late in the game. And I've had 6 posts out and I'm like, where are they? I am glad that I have a little bit of a content backup system, so I wasn't starting from scratch to repost, but it was driving me nuts. So I was trying to push content and I couldn't push the content. It wasn't just kind of going into Neverland. And then I have a friend with an IT husband who said, have you checked the host file? And it turns out that's what my problem was. At some point in the past, one of my hosts, remember I had just switched, so I was publishing to the old host and not my new one. So it would look like it was there for a hot minute to get the link for my content inventory, but it would just disappear. And that's what was happening. I was publishing to my old host and I had to go to my new host. This is what I want to really show you. So if you navigate to your C drive, Windows, System32, drivers, and etc., so etc., literally, then you're going to see some files that mostly do not have a dot anything at the end of it. And this is stuff that your computer uses to know where to send stuff. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, like I've got a couple of other host files in here, they're copies that I made so that way if I messed up, that I didn't mess up my whole computer. So I definitely recommend starting with that. So you would copy your host file and paste it We're going to say continue, even if it says something about administrative permission, because I'm the administrator of this computer. And so I've got a copy. So even if I mess up, it's okay. I can take off the dash copy and then it will work as it did before I made the mistake. So no big deal. So now you need Notepad open. And what that's going to do is if you're going to need to run it as administrator, if you need to make changes, your system is trying not to let you make changes to anything on your C drive that would mess up your system. So it's basically by saying run as administrator, we want to alter that file, but we made a copy of the older file. So you're going to use your account control. Do you want to make changes to this? Yep. And so a Notepad pops up. We're going to open that host file, not the copy. But what you're going to see at first is no items match your search. So that's just because you have text documents. It should default to that. So then go all files and you'll see everything you just saw in the File Explorer. So I'm going to open up the host file. And this is what I want to see. All of these items that have a pound symbol in front of it are just commented out lines that your system essentially ignores. They're notes for you or whoever needs to look at this file. So I'm going to open up my old problem file. It's in the same place, coincidentally, one of those backgrounds. And then what you'll see is an IP address. It doesn't have the pound symbol that's blocking it out. So it's an IP address, a set of numbers that look in a format with like number, dot, number. And then there's the site information past it. And so this is literally the IP address that pointed to my old host. So when I was publishing, it was sending it to this location where I had my file stored. And that's why it wasn't showing up. I had a new host. Everything was kind of just out of alignment. So all I had to do was delete this line of code completely. Now, if your system, if there's a reason for it to have a static IP, you can reach out to your current host if you're not sure about that. But ultimately, I deleted it, closed, and saved. So all I had to do was sign up for another month through the old host, which sucked. And then I asked my new host to migrate the site again, and I did it, and the content existed, and it happily ever after.